Hello there, beautiful soul. Welcome back to another episode of the No BS Human Design Podcast. This week, we are actually sharing and re-airing something that we did within my membership community, Human Design Society. We recently held a workshop that was all about type strategy and authority, getting back to basics. So everyone in the community, for the most part, has started to understand and dig deeper into their type strategy and authority. But then when you get back into your real life with that information, you can find that it can be more challenging to actually implement than you expected. So this back to basics workshop was very much a bring all your questions here that you're running into in everyday life so that we can navigate it together, basically like having a coach by your side for this integration process. So today you're going to hear me giving a live workshop. So sorry if the audio is a little off. I totally didn't plan this. So I didn't have my mic set up for it, but it was such a good conversation that I was like, okay, this would help so many people on the podcast. So we decided to air it. And we're going to talk about finding clarity in what it looks like to be self-projected authority. We're going to talk about sacral authority as a business owner when you actually have to do all these tasks that you don't really want to do. Maybe they're on other people's timelines, or maybe you're still a newer entrepreneur and there's still a little bit of that hustle mentality that you have to put into a startup. We also talk about navigating pressure around saying yes and what that looks like and feels like for especially a generator type, but really in general. Now, before we dive into the episode, one quick announcement. We have had the ability to open up one more room in the retreat. So it's only, 2 weeks away. And if you're local to Miami or Fort Lauderdale area, Florida, this is perfect for you. If you can easily hop on a plane and join us in 2 weeks, this is perfect for you. We were able to open up one more room. It can be shared or it can be solo. So shoot me a message either on Instagram or shoot me an email if you want to claim that room before it gets snagged up. Super last minute deal we've got going on here. All right. I hope you enjoy this conversation with some real life people going through real stuff with the same questions that you probably have going through your human design journey. Enjoy. Welcome to the No BS Human Design Podcast. I'm Adriana Keefe, human design coach and motivational speaker. I went through my quarter life crisis in my 20s and had to learn how to navigate through finding what I was meant to be doing with my life. I refused to believe in the culture that said we were all meant to have the same path and boring careers until we retire and die. And along my journey, I found human design, a system that reveals your energetic blueprint, showing you where and how to access your body's consciousness and how to live as your true self. Human design changed my life, so I started sharing it with others and changing their lives, but we were all finding the same problem: a lack of resources that explain the system in easy and useful ways. So I created this show where we dive deep into the lessons of the human design system without the BS and the noise you find on the internet. Listen in for lessons in human design, finding your purpose, manifestation and spiritual practices, human design within business, and so much more. We connect with other experts in the human design and spiritual realm in a refreshingly honest way to help you find your way along your spiritual path and live this life with intention. It's time to let go of the societal expectations of being and let yourself find abundance through being uniquely you. Let's get started. Okay.
I'll look at what it is again because my mind is in 10 different places. It's right here. Okay, what was it again?
Any specific questions or struggles you've been having with type or strategy or authority? Do you feel like you've actually been able to integrate it into your life in a consistent way? Do you feel like you're struggling with that?
I think the only thing that comes to mind is like the self-projected things. Authorities when I have to talk through my stuff. I feel like sometimes people, like specifically with my husband, I'm like, well, that's not the right word. Like I'm trying. Where are you?
What? You can't
Trying
see?
there we go. Like if we're trying to have a discussion, I'm just trying to like work through things in my head and then it comes out wrong. And then he's like, And I'm like, well, that's not what I mean. I'm trying to figure it out as I'm speaking.
Yes.
So, it's like people sometimes get like offended by the way I might say something because I'm trying to.
You're trying to articulate it to the person in the moment in time instead of having the space to kind of run it through on your own. Does that feel right?
Right, and that's why we know that I need space to think through things, but sometimes like I'm trying to do something in the moment and it might come out just not the way I wanted it to.
So do you feel like it's an actual articulation thing, or you're struggling to say what you already know is your truth? Does that make sense?
I think it's an articulation thing. Or I'm trying to say something I know is my truth, but I don't want to hurt the person's feelings. So I'm trying to say it in a nice way.
Yes, very open solar plexus, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull up your chart. Can you see that my screen switched?
I can see my chart now.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So for obvious, the most obvious thing that jumps out right away is with the open solar plexus and tending to avoid confrontation, people pleasing, because what happens in that moment is your solar plexus is going to feel anything that the other person's feeling. So we tend to fall into like avoidant personalities because we don't want to feel that.
Mhm.
I know you've been doing a lot better with like cleansing and stuff. You could try also energetic guarding before anything, before that conversation or anything like that. Sometimes that's not always possible. But the other thing that might be, and granted, I don't have Nick's chart, so I can't tell what he helps connect for you and what he doesn't. But if you find it tends to be things you're trying to articulate from the mind or from the emotions or even splenic, anything safety, survival, notice that you don't have the direct channel of energy to your throat. You only have that from the G. So you
Mm.
might find it easier in the moment to speak about the things that you almost have like this clear cognizance of. Does that resonate? Do you find that easier?
Yeah.
Okay. So it could be that when you when you're finding like it's hard to articulate something or even figure it out for yourself, you need to step away and you can step into other people's energy. Like this is when I'll go to the coffee shop to work because I'm like, I literally have nothing working right now. I need to go borrow other people's energy.
Mm.
So the transits, they can turn on other things. So like some weeks you might feel like you have a much easier time expressing your emotions or expressing your opinions and your ideas. Sometimes you don't. For me, I'm split definition, so it's kind of a similar problem. I need someone, something, an energy to bridge that gap before something really clicks in. So like even when I learn something new in human design, I won't retain it. And sometimes it doesn't even make sense in me until I listen to it maybe 3 or 4 times and go out in the world and experience the world. And then I'll be have like in the most random place, like at my daughter's field hockey game. Boom, all of a sudden I'm like, I understand kitchen's environment. Like it's the fucking craziest thing. So it could be that you need to practice giving yourself more space, or if you can't, in the moment, practice voicing that let me get back to you kind of energy. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Or are you like, that's not helpful at all?
Oh yeah, totally. I always need like space. Like give me space so I can figure it out and then I'll come back to you when I'm ready.
Yeah. You need let's check the transits today. Oh,
Um,
look at that. Look at that. Look how many connections you have going on. So opinions and ideas and insights might actually feel a little bit easier for you to communicate this week. Have you been feeling more productive or feeling like you can implement more in your business?
mm, kind of, but I've also been like doing a little more self-care this week where I've been like resting a little more than probably I should. But,
Maybe because that's your spleen talking to your root, your
mm,
intuition and safety talking to your pressure, understanding like what you need right now, what your energy needs right now, instead of going into adrenal fatigue. Same with your sacral. You've got all these connections going on with your root right now, which are all adrenals and stress and all of that. So that makes sense to me.
Hmm.
What do you feel like would, how do you feel like we could help you implement the use of your authority in everyday life?
I think it for like everyday life and business as in the business aspect,
I
sometimes
mean,
I feel like I don't sound professional because I have to like think through things and I have to like if I'm like trying to stumble over my words because I'm trying to think through at the same time I'm speaking to a client, right? Um, so I feel like it might not sound as professional. I don't know. That's what's
I
coming.
mean, we know that that comes from a belief system, right? So we know that that's your perspective based on something you were taught. How would it feel in those moments when you start to notice that creeping in to say something to the client like, I just need to process this, let me get back to you. Or I take like, I feel a little cloudy until I'm in my own space to process everything. Can I get back to you? Does that feel doable or does that feel like, oh, scary?
Um, that sounds doable. I think I'm just not used to saying it, so I think I just have to get used to like saying it, I guess.
We just actually had this conversation in RYS yesterday. This was actually one of my clients' ideas, not mine, so I can't take credit for it. Someone was asking a very similar question, and they're like, but how do I create that habit if it's not already ingrained? Because
Yeah.
you don't have that, like, you can't wait for a reminder on your phone. Like, you're in conversation with someone. So one of my clients said, what if you practice every day and like every little thing, the phrase of, let me get back to you? Let me get back to you. Let me get back to you. Practice it with your husband. Like just tell him, whatever you ask me right now, I'm practicing. I'm going to get back to you. I'm processing all this like all the time.
Yeah. I guess that would be a good starting point.
I mean, we all know that there's a lot that happens in the pause when you're able, like, the pause, taking a breath is the difference between screaming at your kid and reacting how you want to react, right? Like, we all know that as parents, but then sometimes it's hard to remember that pause. And so that was my client's question. The other client, she was like, yeah, but if I can't remember to pause, then what do I do? And so that's why I loved the idea of just practicing that statement with everything all the time, writing it down in multiple places so that it keeps triggering in your brain to use it when you can. Telling your husband, he might act, I could see him being like, no, you are supposed to respond with this. Like he could almost be that reminder for you, I feel like, if you tell him to. And you're creating that neural pathway. And then you're creating the habit of giving yourself space to go talk to the tree, talk to the earth, talk to whatever, like whoever's not going to respond back to you so you can actually process with your own voice. And that, I mean, you already know you feel that connection to your claircognizance. So let that speak for you and then get another energies and then come back. But yeah, it is the ability to make that space that is the hardest as moms and as business owners.
Right. Yeah.
Do you feel like that's helpful?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever try the voice notes thing? And if you do, how does that work?
I don't.
It might not be for everyone. It's just some self-directed people have told me that that was helpful, but it's not for everyone.
Like I haven't tried it yet. That's one thing I haven't tried. Because I feel like I do all my thinking while I'm driving or I'm in the shower. And I'm like, this is not a good place to
Yes, me too. I know. Um,
But I'll try it for sure.
do you still have any sort of ritual where you sit and do something quiet every day for yourself, like a meditation or cacao?
Yes.
I'm wondering if that's something you could add on during that space, like where you just hit record on your phone and start just like talking. You don't have to use the phone. I think some people like to use it because when you're just talking to like a desk, it kind of feels like there's no inspiration to talk. But when you're actually talking into something you know is listening, it can feel a little bit easier. Um, so it could be helpful just on a daily basis, letting your everything process out and flow through and see if that clears up any of the cloudiness overall.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm. It is definitely an interesting authority to work with, for sure.
Tell me about it.
So the biggest lessons is practice saying that you need to give your space, depending on who you're talking to. I mean, some random, you're gonna have to say, like, I just need to process this, get back to you. Someone like me, you're gonna be like, I need to go be in my own energy and then I'll get back to you. Like, totally depends. But hopefully that helps create that space for you, at least. Write down your sentence that you're gonna start practicing and keep it so you keep seeing it. Do you know what that sentence is going to be?
I'll get back to you.
I'm holding you to that.
There we go.
Anything else that you feel like is challenging lately?
No, not really.
That's good. Easy peasy.
Yeah, I know. Weird.
I'm curious, as a projector, have you seen invitations flowing in more easily since you've been doing this work?
I would say yes. Yes, I think so.
Nice. And maybe as you start to talk things out on your own, you'll see other things that maybe you're forgetting, or maybe things start coming in more. The importance is just to use your voice. Use it often, use it for yourself.
Sticking it right here.
Nice. All right. Hi, Tana. Hi, Alex. Today we are doing, it's a bit of where's my mouse? Why is this thing freeze? It's a bit of an open coaching slash refresh, going back to basics. I find a lot that I get a lot of messages about like, how do I go deeper and what is this gate? Is this gate mean this and all of this? And it's so much fun to go deeper. Obviously, like this is what I do for my life. And also, those other pieces can't click on until you're actually integrating these basics in your everyday life. So, the back to basics is really important, in my opinion. And especially with strategy. Strategy can be really interesting to try and integrate into your everyday life because you don't remember to, or there's some type of nuance, like something comes up and you're just like, I actually don't know how to use my strategy for this. So, Alex or Tana, is there anything specifically that you're feeling like there's a missing piece, like you can't click it on, or you're struggling to implement in everyday life or anything like that?
I would say doing it on other people's timelines is tricky,
Mm, okay,
right?
talk to me more about
So, like right now, I've got, got a team of people and I've got my own stuff, I've got clients. And so, we use Asana. And so there's like, what's due today? And I'm like, I don't have time to even think about that thing, much less wait to make sure my response feels genuine, right?
that.
Because, like, sometimes that's a matter of, I just want to say no to everything that I just don't have time to think about because I don't want to have to like get quiet enough to sit with listening to my gut and having
Mm,
a response. Um, so yeah, kind of, I've tried to do things like, okay, so on Mondays I'm going to do this, except for because I'm still doing recurring client work. It's like I got deadlines. Like I can't really do that kind of stuff, at least on the
mm,
marketing side, until the second half of the month. So, like I said, doing things on exterior schedule because I'm like it's harder for me.
And you are in a challenging season right now because you're restructuring a business and there's
Mhm.
naturally going to be more on your plate than your energy really wants to take on. And that's another thing that some people in human design don't talk about. Like they tell you it's supposed to be easy breezy and never push, never hustle and all of this, but also there's seasons of life too. And like if you're a newer entrepreneur or you're restructuring your business and maybe you have to hire all new people, like there's a real energy curve to that. So for one, just giving yourself grace is like
Mhm.
the probably the biggest thing. Um, I don't know if you heard when Stephanie and I were talking about like the pause in between. When your sacral is feeling so overloaded, you're naturally just, would you say overwhelmed is just like your state right now?
Um, if I don't, if I was to actually let everybody else be in charge, yes, but I'm like self-aware enough to be like, can't. And I do renegotiate. Um, but yeah, if I just think about all of my to-dos, 100% overwhelmed and like a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then your sacral's feeling like,
Mhm.
I don't know where to put this energy, and now I just kind of shut down, like that kind of feeling.
Yeah. Um, I would say yes. If so what I end up doing is I end up saying, okay, like there's 53 things on this task list for today. I'm going to focus on two. And when I get to those two, then I can think about the others just as a matter of like, I can't. Yeah.
Yes, your sacral is definitely overloaded.
Mhm.
I'm curious, how do you choose which tasks out of the 53 tasks? How do you choose which two that you're going to work on? Like, what's your process there?
Generally, it's client due date first,
Excuse me.
which is sometimes hard because sometimes like I want to do the more creative thing, and I'm like, but I got to get this out on time. So guess I get to not do that right now. So I would say that's like the first half of the month. The second half of the month, I'm more likely to go with what like interests me on a given day. But if there's a deadline to a client, then I don't listen to what I want to do. Just do the thing that it checks it off the list.
Right, because they're depending on us.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, when you do those creative things, does it feel like it gives you more fuel to do the other things that just feel like busy work or finishing tasks?
Um, Sometimes I'm more energy to do other things, but I'm still stuck in a season of doing things I don't love.
Right.
So I can use like borrow that energy to do those things, but I still don't want to. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
So sometimes I will like let myself do the thing that will generate some additional energy and then redirect it so that I can get those other things done so that I can get back to the other thing. And I think that what gets tricky is getting back to sometimes I'm tired by that time and I don't want to anymore.
Yes. Yes, that was actually my concern when I said that. I was like, well, it could either fuel her or she could be like, whew, now I've used up my generator battery, now I'm all done.
Yeah.
So before, I don't want to say this. My initial response would normally be to go through that list and one at a time ask your sacral yes or no. Does this feel like a yes? Does this feel like a no? Now, that being said, that's typically how the sacral is supposed to work. And then we have client deadlines that come into play here.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question would be, have you had that moment of truth with your body that like, this is your season you're in right now, and this is what we're choosing because this is our vision over here. And we
Yeah.
know if we make peace with this right now, then we will get here. And if you haven't done that, that can really help with your body to understand like this is actually exciting to me right now to finish this because I know it's getting me to this vision. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I think that what happens in reality is I will do that and then I'll be like, well, maybe it's okay just to do this other thing. And I have to be like, no, you don't like that thing. It's easy, but it does not fill you. And so I have to like resist the urge to be complacent.
Yeah.
So like that's what gets tricky is like, yes, do that for a thing. And then I'm like, when are we done with that? Or I'm like, well, maybe it's fine. So yeah, it requires like a kind of a constant, is this okay for right now? Yes. Is this okay forever? No. Okay, cool. Then do the thing right now and then like set a little timer, reminder, due it on the calendar to be like, you need to, like, what are you doing to move the needle to make sure this isn't what you're doing forever? And I think
Yes.
that's like that like placeholder. And that
Mhm.
way I'm like not distracted by, but I want to be there right now, but I want to be there right now. So that I have like a time to be like, okay, this is the point where you're going to think about it again. And until then, use your generators, you just like get that shit done.
Yeah. And yes, you're using the power of that definition in your head in ajna directly with your throat. Like it's all connected here. And that is a superpower of yours. Like, okay, how do I get these systems in place? How do I strategize this? I will say for me, what makes it really exciting when I'm in those seasons of overwhelm is when I go to do one of those mundane tasks that I'm like, I should not be doing at this point in my career. To make it exciting, I start creating an SOP as I'm doing it because I know I'm going to hand this off to another person. So I know it doesn't sound exciting, but it also does excite me because I'm like, yes, like someone's going to know exactly what to do. I have a Loom, I have the Google Doc and all of that. So I find that helpful in those
Yeah.
moments of like, I just have to get this done. The other question, where was it? I lost it. Oh, what are you doing for your sacral outside of work? What are you doing that lights you up?
I'm getting. I actually went to yoga. In fact, that's why I was late, is because the class ran long. So I'm making a point to get to yoga, even though when I travel, like I never know when I'm gonna.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a place? Is there not a place? I'm definitely making sure to do that. And I was reminded last night and then again this morning that it's so less about the actual body movement, although that's totally important as well. It's the quiet time. It's the like being out of this space for a hot minute. Like it's the driving. Like there's just so many elements of that. And then what else am I doing? Not enough.
Okay, so I'm just thinking of things as you're talking. Um, yes, absolutely to the yoga and the movement. Yes, especially if it feels good for you. The moment it doesn't feel that good. I mean, there's a difference between I gotta get my ass up and do this because I know it helps me versus feeling like you just have to because you're told to. Um, but the other thing I'm remembering is that you work all day with your husband right here, right?
Yep.
So you're always in other people's energy. And that's
Mhm.
really cloudy. That's really hard. So even when you feel like you're getting like your alone time or whatever, remember the aura extends so our energy is always picking that up. So however often you can get outside of the RV or get him to leave or whatever, the better because you're literally decluttering your aura as you go. I was gonna ask if you have noticed an increase in the overwhelm since being in the small space with him all the time, but I would say you have because you restructured your whole business. So that doesn't, you've done both.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I don't even know which one's touching which. But I will say the other thing that I've done in the last handful of weeks is I've made it a point to go at least one day to a co-working spot. Again, just for our own self. Like it was this time it was on his to tax due. I was like, hey, would it be helpful if I left? And he was like, I love you so much. Yes. And so I also have to kick him out, although he's about to like do a bunch of projects. So yeah, we're still finding our rhythm, but I am reminding myself, in fact, to edit a calendar reminder to be like Sunday, think about when you're going to leave to go work somewhere else and when you're going to go to yoga because you both need that. And it's not about like we don't like each other, but it's about it's too easy and comfortable just to stay next to each other constantly. And then we don't actually fuel each other in positive ways a lot of time.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And you would be shocked by how much of you're absorbing of his energy, good or bad, all
mhm,
the time, and your system just gets into overload. Steph's been
for
doing a
sure.
really good job at creating that space for herself too, because she's found that her system was always cluttered. Everything was always cluttered. And that can put extra on, especially the sacral center. What I would recommend is if you're not like too overwhelmed on the schedule, if it's more just like the tasks, writing down a list of a few things that would genuinely bring you joy to do. Like something that's going to really pour into your sacral that you just love doing, and make sure you're doing it at least every week. Because as exhausted as the sacral is, this is with the assumption that your body is not in functional burnout or anything like that going on. As exhausted as your sacral is, the way that we re-energize it is by pouring back into it. So
Mhm.
writing a list of whatever that is, making a point to do that, and looking at your chart, you're going to naturally probably try to overly do things. So just
Weird.
like, just like maybe try like one thing and then go from there.
Yeah. I have a list of tools that they're more like tools for like recentering. which I guess is sort of what this is. But yeah, I feel like I don't know what I do for fun I don't know what I do for fun. I don't know what I do that's fun. Like that.
Well, you've relocated your whole life and there's nothing that's really
Mhm.
stable. So that can
Correct.
feel tricky. I'm also gonna say like your caves environment, that's what I am as well. Caves people, it's a line one foundation, mean you need safety. So
Mhm.
it's tricky to be moving around all the time to not have a community you feel is safe that you can lean on. So just
Correct.
provide yourself that validation as you're trying to step out of your comfort zone and find spaces that feel safe enough for you to express yourself. I love that you're trying yoga.
Mhm.
That's really hard for not your two foundational lines, both 1 and 4 are foundation lines. So that's
Mhm.
probably extra scary to just like go into a new community and like try to take their class.
Actually, I would say because yoga is such a foundational thing, I've been practicing yoga for 10 years. It actually feels like coming home because I'm
Oh,
around people that
yeah.
are like it's some level in some in a similar mindset. Like I told the teacher today, I was like, you're lovely, like you do a fantastic job. I've had a bunch of like kind of crappy teachers in this whole like let's just go to a random place over the course of time, but no, it feels like coming home.
Mm,
So that's why I'm
perfect.
like, go to a class. Like I can do yoga here, I can go outside and do yoga, but like
Same.
there's something about like just being around people who have some level of commonality that feels really grounding for me.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
perfect. That's the energy that you're looking for in whatever it is that you're doing. Do you I don't networking is such a like, bleh word these days, but do you like in-person events where you would just go and meet people?
In person is trickier, but yes. I mean, so I'm like LMC. I think that's actually how we met. Yeah. I've been making a point to go to those. And now I like most of the time I see people that I know. And now we've had like separate chats. So I'm creating that community, but I think that it's designed to be like people you can sell to. But I'm like, I don't even care about that. I just need people who I see regularly to like
Yep.
feel seen. Does that
Or
make sense? Yeah.
yes. That's
Yeah.
perfect because that's why I was asking like one of the things that's going to really fill you up is depth in relationships. We
Hmm.
need that. We struggle so hard without that.
Yep.
Um, So really, I mean, if it's virtual, that's fine too. Like you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes in person can be best for your energy, but
Yeah.
make do with what you've got.
Yeah, heading into November and December. Well, so a couple things. Heading into the next couple of months, I'm actually going to be home prior to Austin. So we're going to be in the Scottsdale area. So I have tons of friends who I still get to chat with. And then
Nice.
I also am making a point to sprinkle in visits with people into 2025. So we're spending 2 weeks with like my best friend from high school and like, all these kinds of people. And I'm like, what professional development things am I going to? Again, to be near people.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I'm being more strategic about that. Whereas up until this point, I couldn't even get my head around like doing any of those things because I was like, I just get my rest up on the road. And now I'm like, oh, yeah, I miss people. I need to have sprinkles of people. So yeah,
Yes.
I feel like I'm
Yes.
doing that.
Exactly. We actually, as 4 lines, that's part of our shadows. We'll fall out of that and forget that we need connection.
Mhm. Yeah.
So when you're feeling frazzled or all over the place, that's like a go-to for me. Get back into community. I
Hmm.
also just realized it's so interesting. Your Jupiter, which is how you're designed to make, wait, no, that one's not Jupiter. Wait, hold on. Am I forgetting? No, that one's
I was
Jupiter.
like, so you know better than me. So I don't
Hold on. Let me pull up my notes real quick.
I need to turn this heater off because all of a sudden I was freezing and now I'm roasting.
Wait, where are you right now?
uh, you mean physically?
Yes.
We're in Texas.
Oh, you are still. Okay.
Yeah, but it's
Nice.
like super cold today, so I actually have the heater on. Weird.
This is actually even more interesting. Okay. Well, I noticed the 56, and the 56 is in the throat. So we know it has to do with like communication and all of that. This is actually called the Gate of the Wanderer. Did I ever tell you you have that active in your chart?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember talking with you either, but
Mm.
it's it's a storytelling gate. It's someone who typically likes to travel of some sort, broaden their horizons. They can't be in one place for too long because they're designed to find their experiences through broadening their horizons. It tends to be in travel, not always. And then what you do with this energy is adding to the story of your life, therefore communicating those stories out into the world like a true wanderer.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I thought it was in your Jupiter, thinking, oh my, that's so funny. That's actually how you're designed to make money. But it's actually even more interesting because since you've started traveling, you've also started like understanding that your business needed to be in a different alignment and all of that. And your 56 is in your Saturn. Saturn is all about discipline and it's called the judge. So Saturn pokes at us when something's out of alignment. So typically,
Mm-hmm.
like it makes sense that you actually hit the road when you did because Saturn was probably poking at you, saying something's out
Mm-hmm.
of alignment here. You need to go be that wanderer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Because there was times when we were trying to launch, I was like, what am I even doing? I love my life here. Why am I like blowing it up? And I'm like, oh, because I also recognize that there's this space of time before my kids are having kids and before my parents need taken care of. And
Yeah.
like, this is the time that we get to do it. So we can repeat this life if we want to. We can find a new place, like go do the thing. It felt so important to do that. And I don't know why. Like, I could get into negative headspaces about why, but like it definitely just was very compelling to be like, no, this is when you have to do it. Go do it.
So
So
interesting. I love
yeah.
when you see how that plays out in real life.
And I
I
think too, I was doing a little bit of studying on even just digestion, the alternating digestion yesterday. It was like, I know that that's supposed to be actually about food, but taking that outside of food into just a variety of like work and location, like, yeah, I need that, but I
it's how
still
you
need a very
in any
solid base.
yeah. It's actually not just about food. It's how you take in any sort of
Mhm.
information, how you learn best, how you digest life. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes total sense. Um, totally got off on a tangent there. But did all
Mhm.
this answer your original question? Do you feel like you have that sacral response? It's just a matter of using it, quote, properly and in the right, and
Yeah.
when you can't use it, like all of that.
Yeah, I think that again the timing is sometimes tricky, but I think sometimes I just need to be reminded that like I get to decide the timing,
Mm,
meaning I don't have to do things just because people asked, right? Like just because somebody asked doesn't mean I need to make it. Like there are some things I've committed to, but everything else is negotiable. And so if I need to give myself more time to be able to get quiet, to have um a more focused cycle response as opposed to just immediate, because again, I just start saying no if I don't have enough time. So yeah, sometimes I think I just need like that reminder that I get to decide.
I mean, that's even better. If the deadlines are actually something that you can negotiate,
Mhm.
take advantage of that. Because we know
Yeah.
your sacral is going to do better work when
Mhm.
it's actually turned on. And
Correct.
obviously, you want to give the best work to your people. Even if you're over what you're actually doing for them, you still want to have that good communication and good everything there. So,
That's still who I want to be, right? Like I want to be somebody who does what they said and does well at whatever they've said. And so
mhm,
that means that it can't just be whatever's coming at me. It has to
exactly.
be more discerning.
Exactly. Great question. And it's definitely gonna be something that you're gonna practice balancing with energy because you're just in that season. I am too with the retreat coming up. I'm like, well, fuck, all these 15 forms need to be filled out for the center. So like, here I am. So it's a
Yep.
real thing. We have to balance that the best we can and just give ourselves grace and know that we're doing the best that we can.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Not for me. I think that's good.
Okay, cool. Alex, how are you doing? Any questions on your end as far as strategy, authority, integration?
Um, I feel a lot of the same stuff that Tanya does.
Mm,
Um, and I think I need to really dive into kind of some of that. Like we talked about a little bit yesterday, just my schedule with other people and you know, um, I feel this pressure. I just feel this pressure when people ask me
stuff or throw stuff at me that like, and I put that right on the top of the list and will completely change something that I have for myself. Which is like, 101, but I still do it. Not always, but I still do it. And I always, have a lot of guilt. It's hard for me to walk away from things like there's, things I'm involved in, boards and things like that. Like I really just need to walk away. I'm not enjoying it anymore. And as you said, as we discussed yesterday, I think that it's not opening me up to letting in other things.
Mhm. Something's coming up for me now that now this might not feel good as I say it. Just pay attention to what your body responds with. It's also something we've talked about a few times, so you may just be like, yeah, that's a good point, but preparing you either way. Remember that your largest energy, I'm pretty sure the shadow of it was codependence, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes.
Mhm.
And so I can't help but wonder if in those relationships that you don't want, there's that subconscious codependence factor that you're holding on to. Because now, the kids are out of the house again, and that was really, really hard for you. And we've discovered a lot of this codependence can feel so harsh. So I hope that you understand when I'm saying that it just means like how we were just raised to be moms, like that we need them or to be everything for them. And so I'm wondering if there's that subconscious piece at work with these relationships too. What comes up for you there?
Honestly, I don't really think that I kind of forget about that whole codependency thing. And I am. I mean, that definitely is like I've realized that through my work. But I think I forget.
Yep.
So it's like I don't even really think about that
What if you put a
until
little post-it down that has the shadow, the gift, and the city?
the shadow of the what?
This is the shadow, the gift, and the city or the citic state.
Oh,
That's like the enlightened state. Honestly, I focus on the shadow and the gift. The enlightened state is like an afterglow you'll feel at times in your life, but focusing on what sensitivity feels like for you in those moments and how can you tap into your sensations, whatever sensitivity feels like for you. And keeping a note somewhere wherever you tend to like see these emails or get these requests to do something or whatever it is. Maybe that'll be a nice reminder for you to pause in that moment and ask, like, is this a codependence energy that I'm bringing into this relationship? Sensitivity, because I don't have the 19th, it's how I have a hard time understanding what that's presenting like, but you'll get it as you go. It'll,
mhm. Okay.
does that feel like it could be intertwined?
Um, yeah,
Very possible. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've never seen this before.
And this is the gene keys. It's basically like a built upon the human design. Every gate corresponds with a gene key, but the man who developed gene keys basically channeled what the frequency energy is of each gate. And I find that to be even more helpful than the descriptions of the gates because you can feel it in your body. Like you can
Mhm,
feel when you're in codependence or feel when you're feeling sensitive, that kind of energy. And so that
mhm,
might very much still be something you're working through where maybe we've done a lot of work with you and that with your kids, and then maybe your energy is trying to put that into other places instead of staying up towards the gift, which we all do. It happens to all of us.
mhm. Okay.
What I'm trying to figure out more how you can utilize this in everyday life. Because right now you're just feeling kind of stuck, right? Like you need more like, how do I actually use this every day, right?
Yes.
Are you actively practicing that sacral response every day? Not doesn't mean that you're actually listening, but like, do you feel it when you get that email or when someone asks you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So in those moments, maybe a good practice would be you have like a notebook by your desk or something, You write down the date, the message, and what your sacral said. Just give your body that validation that you heard her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, respond how you feel like you can in that moment. And then maybe later reflecting on the codependence, or like however you can build that into your day. Maybe it's a part of your ritual.
Yeah, I think one of my issues too is that, and I tell myself this too, is that so like if I don't do something right away, it might not happen.
God,
So
yeah.
I am very quick to get back to people.
Mhm.
Like if somebody asks me to do something, they give me like if I don't get back to them in a couple hours, like I'm upset with myself. So I
Mhm.
think I need to stop doing that too, and just being able to sit with things and um I'm so used to that quick response.
Well, you're in a masculine industry.
Oh yeah.
That's what they do, right? That's how you were literally trained.
Hmm.
How would it feel to put up an email auto response like the one that I have? Have you seen the one that I have? Yeah, everyone messages me back and is like, "This is the best," but very few will actually do.
No, actually it's funny for me. Like the first time I was like, really? Like really? You can like people do like you can do that? Like at first I was just like, that's ridiculous. Like there's no way. Like now I've actually gotten a little softer to it when I get the message and I kind of understand it a little bit better, but there's no way.
You don't think you could try that?
No.
No. Why not?
It just with work, I mean, it would just be I I I, I think actually it shares too much of myself.
Oh, okay.
And like that's just too open for me with like work and stuff.
Interesting. When I'm asking you that, are you thinking it has to be in the sense of like energy? Because an email autoresponder could, like, my friend Holly, actually, I'll show you Holly's. Holly is not in energy work. Holly teaches business, and she has, I actually might have, oh, am I gonna be able to find it? You know what? I'm gonna write her an email now so I can get it, and you're gonna
Okay.
see about.
And I think the other thing is too, right, is that I don't work for myself.
Mm-hmm. I get that. Let's see. Okay, wait for it, wait for it. As she turned it off and I don't actually get it. All right, I'll wait till it pops over. But yeah, I actually started seeing it, not even in the world of astrology or energy or anything like that. I started seeing it in the basic business strategy, like we'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours and all of that. And I was like, why can't I do that? I have my own spin to it
Mhm.
because I talk about it from an energy standpoint. But oh my God, I really am not receiving it. This is crazy. It literally is always sent back to me. But it is one.
See, like that bothers me
And why does it bother you?
when I get like, I'll get back to you within 20,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, I just,
So there's a
but,
piece.
but that's part of the problem too, right? Is that like, yesterday I'm in a doctor's appointment. I get a phone call. An hour later, I get a text message. Half an hour later after that, I get another text message. And then I completely was like, I'm not fucking calling you back. You're a fucking pain in my ass. And I will, but by 6:30 at night, I was like, tomorrow. Because I had to like close that off.
Yep.
But it's also that too, right? That I get mad and then I
Mhm.
don't want to talk to anybody.
Mhm. Yes. And it's a very common thing. We're projecting our own shit, right? So like it's a very common
Mhm.
thing for you to get pissed off by something like that because you feel like you have to do quick, 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 and you'll fail and people will hate you if you don't. So then you just automatically get pissed off because why does anyone else have the capability of doing this? So maybe your work actually needs to start at the I don't want to say healing feels like a strong word for this, but like the releasing of that projection onto other people, recognizing that this is actually because I don't feel comfortable with it, and starting with that work instead of just jumping into putting up an autoresponder that's going to make you spiral. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and as Tanya just said, we have to train people how to
Mhm.
treat us. And I think about that a lot. Like I've already trained them this way. So it's the expectation, right? They're like, oh, I'll reach out to Alex. I know she'll get back to me. I mean,
And you,
people, I have friends and I know, maybe she doesn't really look at her phone. Who knows when she'll get back to me,
those people, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I mean,
It's hard to retrain, but
yes, it
it's,
is. It is. But when you can see it's hindering your everyday life, that's when, in my opinion, it becomes a priority. Because
yeah,
if it's the same cycle you've been stuck in, we are now understanding what's happening. So we're now like creating that awareness. Oh, this pisses me off. Oh, this stems from this. Oh my God, I'm realizing I'm projecting that onto other people, right? So we're following the breadcrumbs here. And the next step would be to start unpacking that and releasing that. Yeah, I love everything that's going on in the chat.
yeah,
Even just yesterday, I had a friend text me and said, I just saw your email thing. Can I steal that? And I was like, absolutely, because like more women need to be
yeah,
relieved of that pressure all the time. I am so bummed. Maybe I email with her too much. I don't have her autoresponder coming back. But it is one of those like, we'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. And I honestly like getting those because if I were to like, if it was like 2 days later, I would have been like, did my email not go through? Like, did they never see it or whatever? But now I know, no, they saw it and they will get back to me when they can, but it takes time to work up there. Yeah, not self-theme of frustration.
yeah. What does that mean?
The not self-theme as a generator type, this is like your red flag when something's out of alignment. So
Oh,
when you're
geez.
feeling frustrated, there goes my day. When you're feeling frustrated, that's
Oh,
your energy saying, Alex, let's reassess. Waving the red flag here. Something's off, but you don't need to judge yourself for it. We go in and out of that frustration, and satisfaction is the opposite all the time.
okay.
It's just noticing, right? Um, what even was your original question? I feel like we've gone on so many tangents today. I'm like, I answer her question.
I don't really know if I actually had a question. I just,
Just a resonance. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's a lot of deconstructing who you were conditioned to be.
yeah,
I will say it might feel extra tricky. Actually, all of us, I think, have an open heart. I think we all did, because that self-worth piece comes in with an open heart center. And we really struggle with feeling like we are enough. We tend to overcompensate. We tend to feel like we have to give so much because we don't have this inherent consistent sense of self-worth. We tend to fall into the shadow of the external validation. So the open heart is a space where you can practice collecting the wisdom of what self-worth feels like to you. And the whole email responder thing, for me, I started it because I was so overwhelmed with email, and I would find myself trying to answer it when I'm with my kids, and then I would be snapping at my kids, right? And so I have 108 emails right now, and while it does have that like like I have so many things to go through, it's so peaceful to me knowing that they know I'm going to take my time getting back to them. But I had to work up to that too. Does anyone else want to share anything on that, since it's a very common theme for all of us as entrepreneurs? Although you guys also said a lot in the chat that was really helpful too.
I just was gonna say twofold. I think I think that I agree that like just knowing when you're going to get back to somebody, at least it provides a framework, right? So I totally get, like, I don't have that on there, but to be able to know, like, the other person knows, oh, cool, I should chill out until X. Now, I think that depending on who your people are that are getting that, that they might need some time for that. But I definitely think that there's something to be said for, like, oh, now I know what the parameters are. And so that actually can be peaceful for the other person as opposed to um like standoffish about it or anything. But yeah, that open heart thing, that was interesting. I wrote that down.
Yeah, because you
And
did too, didn't you?
I feel like that's true.
I feel like it is too. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. And so I think that's interesting if, yeah, because worthiness is always a thing. And like that looking for external validation, like that, all of that you just said totally rings true. And so I find that, like, I often want to be around people who don't have that issue so that I can borrow that, like, uh,
Yes.
foundational sense. And if I'm around people who are also having that issue, I'm like, no, now we're just circling the drain together.
Yeah, yeah. Alex and I share a business coach, and she always says you can borrow my confidence. And I'm like, I fucking am. Thank you. I actually don't
Yeah.
remember if she has a defined heart. I don't think I have her chart. I think I downloaded it real quick on some other. Oh, I do. Look at that. No, she doesn't. She's just built. So
Oh,
we're feeling her
goals.
yeah, we're feeling what she's connected, I mean collected over time. We're feeling the wisdom that she's created in that center
Mhm.
when she says that. And
Right.
you feel it. Like you
Mhm.
actually feel her confidence in you and you borrow that.
Mhm.
Does everyone feel like they have something they can work with now? Or is there still a little bit of a lingering sensation? Anything like loose ends that we feel like we need before we complete? Oh, we feel good. I know that integration into everyday life piece can be the trickiest. Excuse me. Um, but that's why it's so important that I feel like we talk about it often, because then we're just like, hi, I can't even remember to do this. Like, how do I make this a part of my life? And that's why you guys, if you're in my group, you've probably seen me show you a million times all the reminders that go off on my phone every day. Sometimes it can feel overwhelming, but it also makes me feel aligned because it is satisfying to know that I'm not forgetting things. I also have that deep feeling of satisfaction when people compliment my email auto reply. That is like deeply satisfying to me. That's how I know it was a very good aligned move for me too. So if anyone starts to play with that, I'm super curious to see what you write in them and how you feel. Like if it feels scary or if it feels super peaceful, like you guys got to send me all of that should you choose to actually take it on. All right, man, we covered a lot today. This was great. Next Tuesday at, let me make sure I have the time right. I want to say 2. Yes, at 2, we have an NLP expert coming in. So if you don't know what NLP is, think about rewiring of the brain. It's more a scientific approach. But of course, everything is energy, so it's still energetic at the same time. So she's coming in to do a guest workshop with us next Tuesday at 2. And if you guys think of anything else that you need in the meantime, feel free to drop it in the chat. Things are gonna start shifting next month, I'm thinking. The actual rebrand we're hoping to have out and finished by Christmas, but I think I'm gonna start playing around with the new format maybe next month, just to really test that out and see how everyone's feeling with everything. But if you have any suggestions, feel free to send me a message. I love that instead of me just having to guess or go by what I think is best. And any feedback on anything so far is always good. So thank you guys for being here. I will maybe see you next week. Have a good day, guys. Bye.